Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for being here, for showing up. That's the first step to healing, just showing up for yourself. You know, we live in a world where we're constantly told to be strong, to keep smiling, to move on, and somewhere in between all that, we forget that it's okay to feel pain. Healing from emotional pain begins with one of the most powerful yet difficult steps, acknowledging the pain itself. In a world that often tells us to stay strong or keep going, it can feel uncomfortable, even shameful, to admit that we're hurting, but pretending that pain doesn't exist doesn't make it disappear. It only buries it deeper, allowing it to quietly influence our thoughts, behaviors, and choices. To truly heal, we must first sit with what we're feeling. That means allowing ourselves to feel the sadness, the anger, the grief, or the confusion without judgment. Acknowledging pain doesn't mean we're weak. In fact, it takes immense courage to be honest with ourselves about our emotional wounds. It requires us to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is strength in its rawest, most honest form. It's about saying, yes, I'm hurt, and letting that truth breathe. Only when we admit to the existence of our pain can we begin to understand it, and when we understand it, we can start to process it. Often, we fear that if we allow ourselves to feel the pain, it will consume us. But the truth is, suppressed emotions have a louder voice than expressed ones. When you acknowledge your pain, you take back control. You begin to see it as something you're experiencing, not something you are. You are not your heartbreak, your trauma, or your loss. You are the person who is moving through it with strength and resilience. Acknowledgement is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning. It is the moment you stop running and start healing, and that first honest step, as difficult as it may be, is the most empowering one you'll ever take. Forgiving yourself and practicing self-compassion is one of the most transformative parts of healing from emotional pain. Too often, we are our own harshest critics. We replay mistakes, dwell on regrets, and internalize guilt, convincing ourselves that we should have done better, known better, or been stronger. But healing cannot happen in a space filled with self-blame. Emotional wounds need understanding, not punishment. Self-compassion means showing yourself the same empathy and kindness you would offer to someone you deeply care about. If a friend came to you broken, ashamed, or hurting, you wouldn't criticize them. You'd comfort them, you'd remind them of their worth. So why is it so hard to do that for ourselves? The truth is, healing begins when we shift the way we speak to ourselves, from criticism to compassion. It's okay to have made mistakes. It's okay to not have seen something coming, and it's okay to not have had all the answers in the moment. You were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. The human experience is messy and imperfect by nature. You are allowed to give yourself grace for being human. Self-compassion isn't about ignoring responsibility. It's about recognizing that growth often comes through pain, and that healing requires a soft space within you to land. It's reminding yourself that your pain does not make you unworthy of love or peace. You deserve both just as much as anyone else. When you begin to treat yourself with patience, kindness, and understanding, something incredible happens. You create an inner environment where true healing can flourish. You stop looking outside for validation and start nurturing your own inner strength. That's not just healing. That's reclaiming your power. Emotional pain becomes heavier when it's held in silence. One of the most healing things you can do is give your pain a voice. Keeping everything bottled up inside might seem like the easier option at first, especially when you don't want to burden others or when you're afraid of being judged. But silence has a way of turning pain into something louder over time. What we don't express often ends up expressing itself in other ways, through anxiety, anger, withdrawal, or even physical illness. Talking about your emotions doesn't mean you need to broadcast them to the world. It simply means finding a safe outlet. That might be a trusted friend who listens without trying to fix everything. It could be a therapist who helps you untangle the deeper layers of what you're going through. Sometimes it's writing in a journal, letting your thoughts flow freely without censoring or editing. Even speaking aloud to yourself in a quiet room can bring clarity. The point is to release the pressure that builds when you carry emotional weight alone. When you put words to what you feel, you start to understand it better. You begin to see patterns, name your triggers, and identify what you need to feel better. There's something profoundly validating about hearing your own voice speak the truth of your experience. It reminds you that what you feel is real, and that you matter. It's also important to know that sharing your pain doesn't make you weak. In fact, it shows tremendous strength and self-awareness. You're giving yourself permission to heal out loud, which is a brave and necessary act. You don't have to carry your pain in silence. You don't have to do it alone. Healing begins the moment you start letting it out. Letting go of negativity is essential in the process of emotional healing. When you're carrying emotional pain, the environment around you can either help you rise or keep pulling you down. Often, we don't even realize how much certain people, situations, or internal narratives are draining our energy. But if you're constantly surrounded by toxic relationships, criticism, or your own negative self-talk, it becomes incredibly difficult to heal. You end up in a cycle where the pain keeps getting reinforced rather than released. Letting go doesn't mean you're being cold or unforgiving. It means you are choosing peace over chaos. It means recognizing what no longer serves your well-being and having the courage to walk away from it. Sometimes that might mean distancing yourself from people who don't support your growth. Other times it means quieting that inner critic that keeps telling you you're not enough. And sometimes it simply means setting boundaries that protect your energy. This process can feel uncomfortable. Change always is. You might feel guilt. You might second-guess your choices. But the truth is, healing requires space to breathe, to think clearly, and to reconnect with yourself without the noise of negativity. When you clear out what's harmful, you make room for what's healthy, for people who lift you, words that inspire you, and thoughts that affirm your worth. You deserve to be surrounded by things that make you feel safe, loved, and hopeful. Healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about creating an environment that doesn't keep breaking you in the first place. Releasing negativity is not about giving up on others or yourself. It's about choosing yourself, choosing your peace, and making room for light to return. Because you are worthy of healing, and that healing starts with what and who you allow in. In the midst of emotional pain, it can feel impossible to imagine joy ever returning. Everything feels heavy and the world seems dimmer. But one of the most powerful ways to begin healing is by slowly rediscovering joy. Even in the smallest, most ordinary moments. This doesn't mean forcing happiness or pretending to be okay. It means allowing little sparks of light to re-enter your life, even when you're still carrying the darkness. Joy doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can be as simple as a warm cup of tea in the morning, hearing your favorite song, watching the sunset, or laughing unexpectedly at a silly video. These tiny moments, while they might seem insignificant, are gentle reminders that beauty still exists. They bring you back to the present. They help soften the edges of your pain and remind you that you are still capable of feeling something good. When you intentionally make space for joy, even just for a few minutes a day, you're signaling to yourself that you are open to healing. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about showing yourself that you are more than the pain, that you can still find connection, wonder, and warmth even while you're mending. You don't have to wait until you're fully healed to feel joy. In fact, allowing moments of light in while you're still hurting is what accelerates the healing process. It reconnects you to your sense of self, your passions, and your purpose. Over time, those little moments start to grow. They become hours, then days, until one day, you realize that joy no longer feels like a stranger, it feels like home again. Healing isn't only about feeling less pain. It's also about remembering how to feel more life. And joy is the doorway back to it. When you're in the middle of emotional pain, it can feel like it's taken over your identity. You start to believe that your heartbreak, your trauma, or your struggles define who you are. But the truth is, they don't. They are a part of your story, not the whole of it. What you've been through may shape you, but it doesn't get to decide your worth or your future. You are so much more than what hurt you. Pain has a way of blinding us to our own strength, but even in your most broken moments, you are still growing. Every step you take to keep moving, every time you choose to get out of bed, every time you whisper, "I'm trying," that's resilience. That's power. You might not feel it right away, but healing is happening in quiet, invisible ways, and one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and see how far you've come. It's important to remember that your pain is not your identity. You are not defined by the people who left, the mistakes you made, or the things that broke you. You are defined by how you rise. You are defined by your courage, your compassion, your ability to love again, hope again, and live again, even after being hurt. That's what makes you powerful. You don't need to be fixed. You are not broken. You are becoming. Every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt has brought you closer to the version of yourself that is wiser, softer, and stronger than ever before. The pain may stay with you in some form, but it will no longer control you. It will simply be a chapter that made you braver, because you were never meant to just survive, you were meant to rise.